Hey guys, welcome back to the Calvinist Contradiction. Today we're going to be looking at Genesis 30. So we've come 30 chapters in our study on where is Calvinism in the opening narrative of the Bible. Don't get me wrong, I know you guys try to malign or at least distract from the question we're asking, which is where is Calvinism in the opening narrative of the Bible? And we're asking this because if this is the proper interpretation of the scriptures, not Romans 9, not Romans 8, not Ephesians 1, which people are trying to make a argument that that's how you interpret the Old Testament. But that's not what we're saying here. We're saying if this is the proper interpretation of the Bible, we should be able to clearly, plainly, emphatically, coherently see this in the text, which we haven't. I've asked Calvinists to prove Calvinism, Reformed theology, doctrines of grace, whatever flavor of the Reformed systematic that you want to call it, to prove it from the opening narrative of the Bible, and nobody has been able to. People have been resorting to maligning, to character bashing, and things like that. We're just asking you to prove it from the text. And so, not from commentaries, not from doctrines, creeds, doctrinal statements, catechisms, not from councils, the Council of Dort or whatever. We're asking from the text. And that's because theology isn't derived from any of these councils, creeds, doctrines, doctrinal statements, anything like that. It's from the biblical text. And what we are proving actively in this channel is that you guys are struggling to prove this from the text. We're talking about the immediate text. We're talking about the Tanakh. We're talking about the chapters of Genesis 1 through 12, at least the opening narrative of the Bible in the ancient Near Eastern worldview. And so you're not able to do that. So please do not malign or character bash or any of those things. And we're just going to keep on saying, please prove it from the text. Please prove it from the text. And so we've come 30 chapters. And today we're going to look at chapter 30 and see where's Calvinism in the opening narrative of the Bible. Please, if you like this ministry, subscribe, share, like the video. That helps us to get out in this Calvinist, how do we say it? Calvinist overpopulated space on the internet. It helps us to grow. It helps people to engage. And then also, if you would pray about supporting my ministry, I'm in Asia Minor. I'm a church planter. I run multiple ministries here. One of them's a funeral service for expats. Another one is, of course, teaching theology and the Bible and running a Sunday service, small groups, those kind of things in my host language. And so, pretty busy guy, but I love doing this for you guys. And so, please pray about supporting our ministry financially. And if you feel called to do so or led to do so, you can do that in the description section below. There's also a link to go to Genesis 30 and follow along. And so, now, when Rachel saw that she bore Jacob no children, she became jealous of her sister. And she said to Jacob, "Give me children, or else I die." And Jacob's anger burned against Rachel. And he said, "Am I in the place of God, who has withheld from you the fruit of the womb?" So, right there, okay, who's getting mad at who? Who's making who mad? Why don't we see this? What we said before, because the Lord has caused Rachel to get jealous of her sister. Right? It doesn't say that. Or because the Lord caused, Rachel to say to Jacob, "Give me children or else I die." It says, because the Lord caused Jacob's anger to burn against Rachel. This is Calvinistic theology, right? He controls everything. People out there, if you don't know what your own systematic teaches, that's not my fault. I'm telling you from the research that I've done, from all the Calvinists that I talk to, meticulous control equaling sovereignty is the Calvinistic doctrine, is Calvinist way of thinking. It might not be your flavor. It might not be how you parse it. And that's your own problem. And we're talking about Proper, Calvin, Piper, all these guys. What they're saying, it means the top Calvinists who are propagating Calvinism are saying this. The text doesn't say this. That's our problem. That's what we're talking about here. It says, am I in the place of God who has withheld from you the fruit of the womb? Here we go. And so God withheld the fruit of the womb. That's fine. That's sovereignty. He can rule how he wants to. But where are we supposed to derive from the text that he is controlling Jacob's anger? He's making him angry and saying this right now. That he's controlling Rachel to say this. The text is plain and clear that God is controlling one thing here, nothing else, and that's who's having a child or not in this text. So, Calvinist, where's all that other stuff that we're asking right there? Where are you deriving that he's making Jacob angry? Where are you deriving that he's making Rachel say these things? It doesn't say that in the text. So where are you getting this? Council of Dort? John Calvin? It's commentary, who I'm supposed to be reading to plainly and clearly see the tenets of Calvinism exposed or espoused in the scriptures. That's pointed at you, Alethea, or whatever your name is out there. It's so clear, so plain, so prominent in the text that you actually need John Calvin's commentary to see it. You won't see it without it. How dare you try to speak against Calvinism and not read these things, because it's so plain, so clear that without this commentary, this scriptural reference, you won't see it. Now, I'm being facetious. I'm being pointed, because you are proving to us why this channel exists. And so she said, here is my maid Bilhah. Go into her that she may bear on my knees, that through her I too may have a child. And he gave him her maid Bilhah as a wife, and Jacob went in to her. And Bilhah conceived and bore Jacob a son. And Rachel said, God has vindicated me, and has indeed heard my voice, and has given me a son. And so she named him Dan. Okay, so she ascribes the childbearing to God. But who makes who give Bilhah? This isn't a good situation. This is going to get really hairy. To Jacob. God is ordaining. God is making. God is predestined before the foundational world and he's controlling Rachel to give her handmaid to Jacob. Where's that in the text? Because that's what you tell us, and that's how that Calvinism is true. Reformed theology is so apparent in the text that you can see it everywhere. Well, where does it say it here? Unless you're sitting here conflating what she's saying, that this child has been given to me, to mean that she is made to give. No, it doesn't say that. Rachel's here we go. Rachel's maid Bilhah conceived again and bore Jacob a second son. So Rachel said, with mighty wrestlings I have wrestled with my sisters, and I have indeed prevailed. Oh, so God, with his mighty wrestling, he's wrestling against the sister. That's how we're supposed to take that, right, Calvinists? No. With mighty wrestlings, a volition of the will. But you can't see it because you have Calvinist glasses on. Take them off. It's plain. And she named him Naphtali. When Leah saw that she had stopped bearing, she took her maid Zilpah and gave her to Jacob as a wife. Who gave who? Who made who give? Well, she got jealous, and so the Lord burned with jealousy. I need more children. I'm so jealous. I need to make Leah give her handmaid, because for my glory, I love, multiple sexual partners. What kind of gobbledygook is this? Again, this is Calvinistic theology played out to its ends. No, you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to suspend critical thought and just swallow. But that's not what we can do. We're reading what the scriptures say here. And Leah's maid Zilpah bore Jacob a son. Leah said, how fortunate. So she named him Gad. Leah's maid Zilpah bore Jacob a second son. And Leah said, happy am I, for women will call me happy. So she named him Asher. Now in the days when the wheat harvest, This is critical information. Do you see? They're putting information in here for us to be able to derive things, but all the Calvinistic jargon or lingo or God made him is missing. God, what do we say? Because the Lord God caused it to happen, as we saw him deceitfully say in a couple chapters ago. The Calvinistic rendering, him saying that, is nowhere to be found in any of these texts. Now, in the days of the wheat harvest, Reuben went out and found mandrakes in the field and brought them to his mother Leah. And Rachel said to Leah, "Please give me some of your son's mandrakes." And she said, "Is it a small matter for you to take my husband? And would you take my son's mandrakes also? Is it a small matter that God made you take my husband, that God made my dad deceitfully give, and then made my husband not like me because he made me ugly?" See, it doesn't say any of that, but you put that all in there. See all that extra stuff you put in there when you read with your Calvinistic glasses on, that just sticks all this stuff in the text when you're reading, because you interpret the Bible, you interpret these verses in light of Romans 9. So you take Romans 9 and then you stick it back on top of here, and then you have all this extra information that you're just sticking into there. See all that? And it's missing. She relates to the volition of the will. She's saying, "You stole my husband. You want my mandrakes now." So Rachel said, "Therefore he may lie with you tonight," but sex isn't in the Bible. Never says sex. Can't. It never says free will. Where's free will? It never says free will. Even though right here, okay, they're talking about the volition of the will. You is a small matter to you. You stole my husband. That's all volition of the will. But if we take that same, there's no free will, because it doesn't say free will, as multiple people in the comments have said, there can't be any free will. It never says free will. Well, the same way that I'm saying that free will is alluded to here when it says you did this and you did this. Now, is it a small matter because you want to do this? Well, when it says lie, are we not supposed to, or go into, which we read already, are we not supposed to render that sexually, especially when babies are being produced from this? No, it's hogwash. It's just, a way to get around a systematic that's broken and, you know, fit for the trash heap. Lie means lie, just like you means you, not God meticulously controlling things before the foundation of the world for his own glory, even though it's despicable. Okay? So sex is in the Bible, just like free will is in the Bible. But sex isn't said, and free will is alluded to, right? Sex is alluded to, free will is alluded to. Therefore, he may lie with you tonight and return for your son's mandrakes. When Jacob came in from the field that evening, Leah went out and met him. "You must come into me." Oh, or "You must come into me." Yeah, must. Whoa, spicy language. But wait. It can't be spicy because it's not in there. We need to skip over that. That's how you guys do this with the text. Being facetious to make my point here. "For I have surely hired you with my son's mandrakes." Who hired who? Because the Lord before the foundation of the world uh I hired you before the foundation of the world because God wanted me to. No, it's silly. So you lay with so he lay with her that night. God gave heed to Leah, and she conceived and bore Jacob a fifth son. So, okay, again, we have God doing what? Gave heed. So we have literally, they put it in here. So if any of this other Calvinist gobbledygook that I've been talking about, that God made him do this, facetiously talking about, it would be in there, because they can do this and they do that. When God is actually controlling and doing something, the biblical authors write that. And that's what we're saying. That's where you're stuck, Calvinists, because when we say, prove your systematic from the verses that you're saying it derives from, and you say, well, you can't do that. You have to go to Romans 9. You have to go to Romans 8. You have to go to Ephesians 1. You have to go to, Exodus 20. You have to go to, or Exodus 10 or whatever it is. You have to go to Genesis 50. You can't derive a theology from the one place where we say that it derives from. You can't do that. Well, guess who does that? And we'll get there when we go through Romans. I know you guys are itching, scratching, can't wait until we get to Romans 8 and 9, but we're going to go to Romans 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. And we're going to show you from 5 that Paul does exactly that. He literally does that. The Galatians 3 thing that we're talking about, the main surveyor out there, is the same thing. He's deriving a theology from Genesis 12, from the place where you apparently say that God's meticulously controlling him to do all things. The gospel, and I'm not going to get into here because I don't want this to go real long, the gospel never changed. The gospel never changes. The problem with y'all is you feel like the gospel changes in the New Testament, but it never does. And we'll do a whole video on that. One gospel, whole Old and New Testament, covenant theology. It's easy when you look at it that way. But when you conflate, when you, you know, when you stick Calvinism in there, when you get the contradictions and all that stuff, yeah, of course it gets complicated. But God gave heed to Leah. And so God's doing something here, right? We're giving credit to God for what he's actually doing, not what he's supposed to be doing in a systematic that just sticks him in everywhere, but it never says it anywhere. And then the council of Dort is supposed to shine and illuminate everything for us, or the catechism, or the doctrinal statement, or any of these things, not the text itself. No, text itself should tell us, just like it does here. So God gave heed to Leah, and she conceived and bore Jacob a fifth son. And Leah said, God has given me my wages because I gave my maid to my husband. So she named him Issachar. Leah conceived again and bore a sixth son to Jacob. Then Leah said, God has endowed me with a good gift. Now my husband will dwell with me because I have borne him six sons. She's doing all this to try to get him to like him because she knows that she's not as loved as Rachel. So she named him Zebulun. Afterwards, she bore him a daughter and named her Dinah. Then God remembered Rachel, and God gave heed to her and opened her womb. Again, okay, we can give credit to God for where God's moving, and God is doing this. Again, all the things that I have facetiously said that is in the Calvinistic systematic, that Calvinists, Reformed theologians, who else? Doctrines of grace followers, all these people who they say, uh, meticulously controls everything, but it's never written in the text. You're supposed to read that in between the lines. It's there. You just can't see it. No, if it was supposed to be there, it would be there, just like God remembered Rachel. And then he gave heed to her and opened her womb. So she conceived and bore a son and said, God has taken away my reproach. She named him Joseph, saying, may the Lord God give me another son. Now it came about when Rachel had borne Joseph, and Jacob said to Laban, send me away that I may go into my own place and to my own country. Give me my wives and my children, for whom I have served you, and let me depart, for you yourself know my service which I have rendered you. But Laban said to him, if now it pleases you, stay with me. I have divined that the Lord has blessed me on your account. Well, what's going on here? Who says that Laban is a believer? Remember, all you Calvinists out there who are trying to prove their point from Genesis 12 that God controlled Abraham before the foundation of the world to leave Ur of the Chaldeans, to leave this same place right here with these people. And they even say, and God chose Abraham and he neglected all the other people. And I said, well, no, wait, what about Lot? He went with him. Remember that? And a ton of people with Lot. And so this is a problem for you guys, you Calvinists, is that you say God chooses people before the foundation of the world, not due to anything that they have done, but then in my estimation and in my experience and in the Bible, people come to the Lord and then their whole family saved. So how do you explain that? And they're come to the Lord when they hear, and then they believe, and then it's counted to them as righteousness, the true order salutis. But you guys say no, before the foundation of the world, they were saved. And then somehow it just miraculously happens that this whole family comes. I don't know. That's a problem in my estimation for you guys. How do you explain that? That a whole family, the father believes, and then the whole family believes too. Because you don't count in the ancient Near Eastern, even Near Eastern, because I live in the Near East, I live in Asia Minor, that whatever the father does, that's what the whole family believes. But you can't put that in there because your, dung heap systematic can't hold that. It won't allow that. So what's up with this guy, Laban, who he is an idol worshiper? It says later that Rachel takes his idol. This guy, he knows what's going on with the Lord, but you can't do that. Total inability in the Calvinistic system. This guy is totally unable to do this. So what is up with this? How's he divining this? How's he knowing this? That the Lord's blessing him because of um, Jacob here? You tell me. He's totally unable, cut off. He's a dead man. What can a dead man do except for lay there and do nothing? Not. He's definitely not divining. What is this dead man doing divining? That the Lord has blessed him on the account. We talked about this later, that when they go into other places and they say, well, what's going on with the Lord? They're talking about the Lord. This is Lord, big capital here. This is, they're knowing who this is. This isn't just somebody. They're calling him out. They're putting this in here. So what is it? Calvinists. Where's total inability? Is it slipping here? And then, well, it's only a 4 point here. We don't believe in that part right here because, not. I've been getting this from you, the main surveyor, and people out there. This slippery thing where you try to grab a hold and hold Calvinism responsible. Well, they don't believe in total inability, but it's still all the same Reformed theology. It's this broad, systematic, this rich, systematic that can't hold water. So don't look behind the curtain at the naked man standing there with no clothes. Don't look there. It's all that same thing. You can't look there. They don't believe that. We don't believe that. It doesn't mean that. It means this. It doesn't mean this. It means that. It's just this slippery gobbledygook that I keep saying that you can't hold accountable because the system, which can't take water, has to have these defense mechanisms. So we're saying, how's this happening? Total inability. What's going on here? He continued, name me your wages and I give it to you. But he said to him, you yourself know that I have served you and how your cattle have uh, fared with me. For you had little before I came, and it increased to a multitude. And the Lord has blessed you wherever I turned. But you can't know that because you're totally unable. You're totally unable to know that. So why is he wasting his breath here? Oh, he made him do it before the foundation of the world because God's a total contradiction in the Calvinistic systematic. But now shall I provide for my own household also. But now, when shall I provide for my own household also? I'm sorry. So he said, what shall I give you? And Jacob said, you shall not give me anything. If you do this one thing for me, I will again pasture and keep your flocks, and let me pass through your entire flock today. Who's going to pass through? Jacob, not the Lord making Jacob. Why do we know this? Because it would have said that. Just like it said in this chapter multiple times that the Lord did this. It ascribes to the Lord what the Lord does. He's not going to do this. This is something deceitful that's going to happen here. Removing from there every speckled and spotted sheep and every black one among the lambs, and spotted and speckled among the goats, such as shall be my wages. So my honesty will answer for me later when you come concerning my wages. Every one that is not speckled and spotted among the goats and black among the lambs, if found with me, will be considered stolen. Laban said, let it be good. Let it be according to your word. So, according to whose word? God's before the foundations of the world, because God's orchestrating all this? No, because it doesn't say that in the text. And it would say that in the text because we've seen multiple places in this chapter where it ascribes to the Lord what the Lord is doing. So he removed on that day the striped and the spotted male goats, and all the speckled and spotted female goats, every one with white in it, and all the black ones among the sheep, and gave them into the care of his sons. And he put a distance of 3 days' journey between him and Jacob, and himself and Jacob fed the rest of Laban's flocks. Now Jacob took fresh rods, not God made Jacob take fresh rods before the foundation of the world for his own glory to do deceitful stuff, because he's actually this crazy monster that you would never be able to know, but we have to ascribe to him glory because that's the Calvinistic system. No. If it was ascribed to the Lord, it would be written just like it has every other place in this chapter with Leah, with Rachel. This is Jacob being deceitful here. He's wanting to do something. And he takes these fresh rods of the poplar and the almond and plane trees and peeled them, and with stripes with them, exposing the white rods which was in the rods, the white which was in the rods. And he set the rods which he had peeled in front of the flocks and in the gutters, even in the watering troughs, where the flocks came to drink, and they mated when they came in. So it's some kind of aphrodisiac thing that makes them mate when they come. So the flocks mated by the rods, and the flocks brought forth stripes speckled and spotted. Jacob separated the lambs and made the flocks face towards the striped, and all the black in the flocks of Laban. And he put his own herds apart and did not put them with Laban's flocks. Moreover, whenever the stronger of the flocks were mating, Jacob would place the rods in the straight in the sights of the flocks in the gutters, so that they might mate by the rods. And when the flocks were feeble, he did not put them in. So the feeblers were Laban's, and the strongers were Jacob's. So the man became exceedingly prosperous and had large flocks and female and male servants and camels and donkeys. So something deceitful went down there, right? But that's for the God of, the deceitful God. And another crazy, hey Chris, how's it going, brother? Another crazy is uh, comparison between Calvinism and Islam. In Islam, in the Surah, it says there's no greater deceiver than Allah. That way, you can deceive in Islam if it propagates the Islamic faith. Well, who's the greatest deceiver in Calvinism? It's God, because God controls all things. He controls rape. He controls murder. He controls genocide. He controls people eating people. As unimaginable as it may sound to us, he controls abortion. He controls the people wanting to get abortions. He controls lies. Why? Because the Calvinist God is the God of deceit. He is the greatest deceiver. Guess who else is God is the greatest deceiver? Allah, the Islamic God. And so this is what the whole book is about. My friend out there who wrote, "Oh yeah, Islam shares so many things with Calvinism because Calvinism is the true interpretation of the text, and when you read it, you can see it everywhere." And in Muhammad, when he read it, well, he didn't actually read it; he was dictated to, right, in a cave from a demon. So yeah, your theology has a lot in common with a demonic theology of Islam. Not because it's so apparent in the text of the not because it's so apparent in the biblical text that you can't see it without John Calvin's commentary on Genesis, but because it came from a demon, and in my estimation, Calvinism came from a demon, and I would say the same demon to boot. That's why they're so they're the same. That's why they share so much in common. Again, we're working on a book to get this into your hands so you can study and look at these things and then determine if they're true or not. I'm telling you right now, they are. Here, this deceitful action, when ascribed to by God, Chris, if you have anything you want to add in here, brother, let me hear it. Um, when this deceitful act is ascribed by God in the Calvinistic systematic, Jacob's being a deceiver here, but he's being made a deceiver by God so that God can get glory. And this was before the foundation of the world, so that we can rejoice in God's deceitful actions with humanity, because God is like that. And who are you, O clay, in the systematic to say anything against it? Well, in the Islamic systematic, God's the greatest deceiver. He deceives who he wants to for his glory. Who are you? This is the same thing. Who are you? Shut up. That's what they literally, you cannot ask questions against the systematic in the Islamic faith. I've been here for 10 years. I've literally talked, it's got to be thousands of people by now, that you cannot ask these questions. You cannot ask why God is far away. Another crazy, coincidence. It must be derived from the text, because Calvinism is so clear that you can't understand it without a commentary, right? That God's far off. because how's God a close God to anybody? He's even more removed in the Calvinistic faith, that you are totally unable to come to him. At least in the Islamic worldview, he's far off. He doesn't give any care about humanity. He set humanity up. He's gone. He's far away. He's not a father figure. You cannot reach him. You can't ask questions about him because who are you, oh man? That's literally what they say. Who are you but a man to ask about the glories of Allah? He is so glorious. He's done so much for humanity. You can't say anything. Who shares a worldview like this? Christians who call him Father, just like my kids can come anytime, except for right now because I'm doing a live stream. But they can come to me at any time and ask me questions, and I'll answer those questions. And I don't tell them, "Who are you, oh child? I birthed you you know before you were born. I wanted to create you, therefore I created you, and you can't ask any questions." Which one is more in line with the Bible? The Bible, the good Father, who you can come to. All that is mine has been yours. The 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 parable of the prodigal son, right? The second son, not the first son, who's always there. He says, "Well, why didn't you do any of this for me? Because everything that I have is yours. You're in my house, right?" He's the good father. He comes running out when he sees one that's he ascribes him as dead, right, Chris? Right? If there's a Calvinist out there, I don't know who the other one is, but he ascribes to his son as dead. Well, what does the dead guy do? What can a dead guy do in the Calvinistic systematic? Zero, nothing, nada. Lay there. You can't come to the Lord because you're dead. You can't think about the Lord, even though Laban's doing that here. You can't ascribe blessing from the Lord because you're dead. And dead in the Calvinistic system, dead means dead. And what can a dead man do except for lie there, just like Lazarus? See, they don't take the dead from the prodigal son story and then apply it to the scriptures, which means separated from God, which is what happens in Genesis 3. But we can't derive theology from Genesis 3, even though that's where it originates in Calvinism, because that's not good hermeneutics. That's not good theology. That's not good doctrinal espousing doctrine from the text. You have to go to the New Testament. You have to go to Romans 9, and then you can read it back into Genesis 3. No, you can't. Not really, because everything you're getting from Romans 9 doesn't apply in Genesis 3. I would say it doesn't even apply to salvation in some of those parts. It's applying to who the Messiah is going to come through. But we're going to get into that later. And so, again, the prodigal son, it says the guy's dead. Well, what does the Lord say? If you eat from this tree, you'll be dead. So I would say the proper interpretation, yes, Adam and Eve die. Yes, physical death comes. Yes, all those things. But the main thing that happens at the curse is a separation. And so when the prodigal son's father says, who's in the God slot in the story, right? He says, "Oh, our son was dead and now he's alive. He was lost, now he's found. He was separated, now he's with us. Let's have a party." Not he's dead like Lazarus, which serves your systematic, which is fit for the dung heap better. That's why you use it. What can he do? Except for laying there and hear Jesus' word to come out. Well, that's not the proper interpretation. That's you reading through your Calvinistic classes in Romans 9, which you're taking on, and then you come back to the text and you stick things back in there, not letting, what is that? I think that's John 9, maybe, or John, I don't think it's 8, I think it's 9 or 10. Not letting John 10 come before Romans 9 and then interpreting, in the reverse, the true way that you should do it. It's taking Romans 9 and coming back and shoving it into everything you see, because that's the only way you can make your systematic work. And we've proved it 30 times now. And then we just keep on hearing, you can't build a systematic, even though the systematic is derived from Genesis 3. That's where it all takes place, but we can't build a systematic out of that. It's bogus. It's baloney sausage. It's a whack, weak, demonic, I'll say that, systematic that you're putting into the text that was never there. Okay, so get a systematic that works. Ancient Near Eastern worldview of the Bible, the proper context, letting the Bible's context, the ancient Near East, the people that immediately heard Genesis, let that derive your theology. Let the text derive your theology, not catechisms, not creeds, not doctrinal statements, not commentaries, not any of these things, the text themselves. And we saw today, once again, that the text never describes meticulous control equaling sovereignty, meticulously controlling God for deceit, a deceitful God who meticulously controls all deceit for his own glory. That's Allah. That's the Calvinistic God. We don't see any of that in the text. That's all put in there. The places that do ascribe things to the Lord, it says it. And it never talks about the deceitful part. It doesn't ascribe that to Jacob getting angry. And so, all these things, where if you would play out Calvinism to its full end, if you would, and you should do this, critically think about your theology and then apply it to the text and let it run to the fullest, you would see that it's a dunghill ready trash theology. Okay? That's what we are proving here. Prove us wrong. It's on you, Calvinists. Go back, show us where it comes from. Genesis 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Again, we ask you for 1 through 12. We'll give you 12 chapters. Why? Because that's how the ancient Israelites say that the world became the way it is today. Not just Genesis 3. It's Genesis 3, 6, and 11. The three dual rebellions of the physical or human beings and spiritual beings rebelling against what God said, trying to bring Eden back with their own, after Eden in Genesis 3. Genesis 6 is trying to bring the heavens and the earth back together through mating with spiritual beings and physical beings. And then the same things going on in Genesis 11. And these three things for the ancient Near Eastern Israelite, the person who would be receiving these texts in that time, that these texts were written to, not written for, they're written for everybody, written to, that's their worldview. Their worldview is built from those 11 chapters. Where's Calvinism in there? We're going to extend it to where's Calvinism in the first 20 chapters. The first 30 chapters of the Bible, it's still not there. Massive problem for y'all. So, love you guys. Love you, Chris, man. Glad you joined on here. Hopefully, we can make that episode happen sometime soon. Me and you hop on an episode together. Just let me know when's good. You can email me or just write to me in one of the comments, and I'll see it when you want to do one, and then we'll do one together, brother. And then thank you so much for joining us for another episode of The Calvinist Contradiction. And we'll see you again back here this week for another episode, probably a conflation one or a comment response one, and then we'll keep on moving. But I love you guys, and we'll talk to you soon.